the struggle to end gender-based violence and femicide can only succeed if society as a whole is mobilized and organized behind a common program of action. Following the Presidential Summit Against Gender-Based Violence and Femicide in November of 2018, and after extensive consultations that were held, these consultations resulted in the drafting and adoption of a national strategic plan, which was also adopted by Cabinet. The implementation of the plan commenced on 1st of May 2020. The plan recognizes that the struggle against gender-based violence and femicide requires collective as well as a cohesive strategic type of leadership. The plan provides for a governance structure in the form of a multi-sectoral gender-based violence femicide council to lead the implementation of the plan. However, even as the national plan was being drafted, we had to confront the reality that the violence that is perpetrated by men against women in our country had become a national emergency that required urgent and decisive action. It is the type of emergency which I also characterize as a second pandemic that we are having to deal with. We began the implementation of the Emergency Response Action Plan, which, as you might recall, was presented to a joint sitting of this Parliament in September of last year. Through the reprioritization of resources, we were able to allocate around 1.6 billion rand to implement the Emergency Response Plan in the remaining months of the financial year. Working with our partners in civil society, we have managed to improve access to justice for victims and survivors and have improved our capacity to investigate as well as to prosecute gender-based violence perpetrators. For example, we have upgraded 11 sexual offences courts and implemented a system to track the processing of GBVF related cases. We have improved the supply of sexual assault evidence kits, which are now available in all police stations in our country. 3 amendment bills intended to strengthen the response of our criminal justice system have been approved by Cabinet and are in the process of being introduced into the parliamentary system. Among others, these bills aim to tighten bail conditions for perpetrators of sexual offences. They also aim to strengthen parole conditions and increase minimum sentences. But they also are aimed at ensuring more severe consequences for contravening of protection orders. 5 new Tutuzela centers are to be established and will be operational by the end of March in 2021. At the same time, a major focus of our work has been on changing norms and behavior through high-level prevention efforts, such as mass media campaigns and engagements with men's groups, offenders in prison, and also youth at risk. While the Emergency Response Plan sought to address these and other immediate issues, the National Strategic Plan guides the broader changes that we must achieve in the medium to long term. This will be led by the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide National Council. After extensive consultation, it has been decided that the National Council will consist of a board with various technical working units. In line with Article 4 of the Presidential Summit Declaration, the GBVF Council will consist of a maximum of 13 members. 51% of these members will be civil society representatives and 49% will be government representatives. The Council will be inclusive of all South Africans, including women from the urban and rural areas and different cultural and racial and class backgrounds. The members will be appointed through a transparent process of public nomination and selection. As a country, we remain determined to root out the scourge of violence against our daughters, our mothers, our sisters, our grandmothers, and our children. The National Strategic Plan is a vital guide to the many forms of interventions that we require to make our country a safe place for all, particularly women, children, and the LGBTQIA+ persons. As we work to deeply embed this plan not only across government, but across society, we will look to GBVF Council to provide the vital strategic leadership in our struggle and to end this crime against women and
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the response, Mr. President. I'm happy that you have confirmed that the amount of 1.6 billion has been set aside to fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Can the President expand on the management of the funds? Will the President be actually assuring us that the funds will be managed by the GBV Council, or will the fund be managed by the organizations, and how will the spending be monitored to ensure effective use, which is fit for purpose? I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable the President.
The various organizations that we interacted with leading up to the finalization of the National Strategic Plan insisted that we needed resources that would strengthen all our efforts to fight gender-based violence and femicide. And they insisted that the funds need to be allocated properly and they need to have line of sight of how those funds are going to be spent, how they will be managed. Now, the establishment of the Council as a governance structure is also meant to have oversight over the spending of those funds and ensure that the funds are indeed spent, but for starters, that they are sourced. We started off with the reprioritization of the 1.6 billion, and we ensured that that reprioritization leads to various government departments making sure that those funds are made available, they are reprioritized, and they are set to the task that we had set out in the plan. The Council will therefore be an oversight mechanism that will make sure that those funds are indeed spent on the programs that have been set out in the National Strategic Plan. Now, when the Council is finally put in place, I am sure that they will come up with clear plans of how they will follow the money, of how the money is spent, and I'm sure that they will make sure that all that money is spent to achieve the purposes that are set out in the plan. We are committed as a government to make sure that money will be made available for this very important national task. And that is something that the Council is also working together with us. It's going to ensure and oversee. So I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that the resources that have been allocated will be properly spent. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.